Have you ever wondered why some people come across as more likable than others, even when they're saying exactly the same thing? You could see it as like having two cakes. The two cakes, they've got exactly the same ingredients, but what is it that makes you prefer one cake over the other? In this video, we're going to dive into some of the common charisma mistakes, and we're going to find out how you can avoid them, especially when it comes to the workplace. Now, charisma is a really important component of communication and also who you are as a person. As professionals and high achievers, charisma is something that we need to develop. See it a bit like a bit of a secret sauce. It's that thing that's going to give you that extra little edge. But one of the mistakes that a lot of people make is they think that charisma is like this superstar celebrity kind of thing, cameras flashing, people throwing themselves at you. However, charisma, it comes in many forms. There is a great book on charisma called The Charisma Myth, and this was written by Olivia Fox. And in the book, she points out that charisma consists of three components, and these are power, presence, and also warmth. And charisma is made up with a varying degree of each one of these components. Then charisma comes in four different kinds. You've got focused charisma, which is someone who has a high presence, who makes other people feel important and heard. Think of Oprah Winfrey for this. Then you've got visionary charisma. Now this is someone who has a vision that inspires others to follow them. So think of people like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, even cult leaders, they have this kind of charisma. Then you've got kindness charisma, and this is someone who creates a deep, warm and emotional connection with others. Think of somebody like Mother Teresa for this. And then you've got authority charisma. Now this is someone who has they're very high in power and status, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're that affable. A really good example here would be, think of a politician. Now, my goal in this video is to provide you with some actionable tips to help you improve your likability and charisma in the workplace. That doesn't mean that it's only going to apply in the workplace. It can be used everywhere, but I'm going to focus this more in the workspace side of things. So the first tip is avoid defaulting to negative intent. Now, I am sure that you've had the situation where somebody has said something to you, or they've asked you a question, and you instantly thought that they were attacking you, even though after a bit of a conversation, it turned out that they weren't. They were just curious. They just needed some information. So let's look at a real world example. Imagine that you're at work and a colleague asks you if you've finished the report that you're working on. Now, instead of assuming that they're doubting your work ethic or how much you've done and how much hard work you put into it, consider that maybe they just need the information so that they can carry out one of their own tasks. So how can we take this and start using it in our day-to-day? We can practice assuming positive intent, and we can do this by asking clarifying questions like, do you need this for something specific? Doing this and asking questions, it is going to avoid those misunderstandings. Second thing is get clear when you are using sarcasm. Let me explain here. I'm sure that you've had the situation where somebody has said something to you and you have responded in a sarcastic manner. However, you have then found yourself having to say, no, I was just being sarcastic. You see, this is the thing, when we decide to use sarcasm, and sarcasm, they say it's the lowest form of wit. However, sarcasm used at the right time, it can be a very powerful tool in communication, but we need to make the sarcasm really obvious. And we do this by exaggerating our gestures, our tone, and our facial expressions. So a real world example of this could be, let's say that you're at a team meeting and you jokingly say, oh great, another delay. This project is going so well. Now, if said without a smile or a joking tone or exaggerated gestures, it could be taken in the wrong way. However, if it's said in a playful way, with a big smile, with bigger gestures, everyone is going to know that you are joking at that point in time. So let's take this and let's put it into the real world. When we're using sarcasm in the workplace, just make sure that you're using your body language and your tone clearly indicating that you are joking, just to avoid any confusion and you having to say, I'm just being sarcastic. Third up on the list of tips is assume positive intent. Now this may sound similar to point number one, however there is a very slight difference here. Let's look at this if somebody is actually making a negative or rude comment towards you, and by adopting a positive intent, it lessens its power when someone makes that kind of comment. Let's look at a real world example. Let's say that a colleague has teased you about maybe a new haircut. Now instead of getting upset and getting all defensive, just laugh it off and you could use something like, well, I'm just trying out a new conversation starter or something along those lines. So how do we take this and use it in the real world? We want to respond to potentially rude comments with humor or a friendly remark to diffuse tension and to also maintain a positive atmosphere and diffuse their comment. It's going to lessen the power of their comment. The fourth thing in the list is to remember that it's not always about you. Now, unfortunately, this is something which I do see quite often, and it's not normally meant by any harm. I think that the world that we're currently living in, where I think social media has made us feel that we need a lot of attention towards ourselves. And it normally comes from either a need for approval or a need for acceptance. But when somebody else on the team is being celebrated or somebody else is being spoken about, I'm seeing this increased need for other people to bring some attention back towards themselves because they want to be recognized. And we need to stop doing this. Somebody who is charismatic, they're really good at celebrating others. They're really good at raising other people up. So let's just say that it's a team meeting and the manager, they're praising a colleague for all of their hard work. I want you to start looking at it from joining in by adding in how that person's efforts helped the whole team, how it made the project such a huge success, rather than trying to say some of the things that maybe you contributed towards it. Celebrate other people. So how do we take this and apply it real world, day to day? Focus on spreading praise to other members in the team by recognizing the collective achievements rather than bringing up those individual contributions. The fifth thing on the list is don't go into conversational combat. Now, what I mean by this is don't try and win every single conversation. All this is going to do is it's going to set you up for a conflict, combative style of interaction. Now, I know that there are some people out there who absolutely thrive on this kind of interaction, but if we're going to be completely honest, nobody really likes them and nobody really enjoys those interactions. Now look, when I'm up on stage presenting, whether that's a keynote or a show or emceeing, I will quite often have some people, they might heckle me or they might say something and I might not have any idea how to respond, or I might know how to respond, but I know that it's going to create this combative or this conflict between me and the person in the audience. And so in those situations there, I will not go down that route. If anything, I just hold my hands up and just say, yep, okay, that was a great point. And then I'll just move on and take the conversation where it needs to go. Now, something that my coach and mentor Chase Hughes says, and it is a really great line, and that is don't try and convince anyone of anything ever. Just following that little rule, it stops you trying to prove yourself all the time. It stops you trying to go into that combative, that conflictive kind of interaction. The sixth and the final thing on my list today is be a master at accepting compliments. Here's the thing, compliments make people turn weird. People really struggle to accept compliments. They get all awkward, and when someone gives them a compliment, they try and downplay everything, like, oh, it wasn't really anything, it was all easy, or I didn't really do anything. When somebody compliments your work, instead of downplaying it, simply say, thank you, I appreciate that. Just accept the compliment. Start to practice this in your day-to-day life. But also, linking back to point number 4, you should also be delivering compliments to others. You should be giving others that celebration that they deserve. So there you have it. Quick recap, avoid seeing everything as negative. Second thing was be clear when you are using sarcasm. Third thing was assume positive intent. The fourth thing was avoid making it all about you. Fifth thing was don't go into combat. And the sixth thing was learn to accept those compliments. Look, if you've enjoyed this video, I really would love it if you could just subscribe down below. Also hit the like button. Also leave a comment as well. What did you think of this video? Is there something that you would like me to include in a future video? If you're still here right now, I really appreciate you watching right until the very end. And yes, I just gave you a compliment. Accept it. See you in the next video.